Hey there, financial enthusiasts. Are you feeling the weight of financial stress? Well, you're not alone. Canadians' financial stress is on the rise, and we're here to help you navigate through it. Welcome to the Tortoise and Hare Financial Podcast, where slow and steady wins the race to financial freedom. Your hosts Jim Lau and Ryan Genoe together are here to bring you the latest insights and strategies to conquer those money worries. We've got some eye-opening surveys to share with you, revealing the financial challenges Canadians are facing. According to FB Canada's Financial Stress Index, money remains the top source of stress, beating out health, relationships, and work. But don't worry, folks. Financial wellness planning can provide some much-needed relief. That's right, inflation might be burdening us, but with the right strategies, you can ease that financial strain. We'll dive into the survey findings, exploring rising costs, saving challenges, and even the impact on mental health. And here's an interesting twist. Working with professional financial planners can make a significant difference. The survey shows that those who worked with financial planners felt more hopeful about their financial futures. So join us as we unravel the secrets to financial peace of mind. We'll also discuss the Fidelity Retirement Report, which highlights the importance of having a written financial plan. Canadians who had a plan felt more prepared, both financially and emotionally, for retirement. But guess what? Less than one-third of respondents had a written plan. Let's change that. Get ready for expert advice, actionable tips, and inspiring stories of financial success. Because here at the Tortoise and Hare Financial Podcast, we believe that everyone can win the race towards financial freedom. So grab your headphones, subscribe to our podcast, and get ready to take control of your financial future. Remember, slow and steady wins the race. Stay tuned for the Tortoise and Hare Financial Podcast, where your journey to financial freedom begins.
Why is it me? Why am I that guy? I still buy low and still sell high. But as much as I try to get balance and get by, I make the money, then I get high. The beast in me won't let me.
Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Tortoise and the Hare Financial Podcast. My name is Jim Lau. I'm your host today, and joining me is my co-host, Ryan Genoe. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I got my golf shirt on. Summer's hitting. It's ready to enjoy more fun in the sun. And obviously today is how people can enjoy a little bit more fun in the sun and not have to worry all the time.
Yeah, you're right, and also feels like we haven't talked to each other in a while.
No,
because
we have
I think
not.
we have been having that opportunity to go out there. I mean, I've had family visit from out of town and spent some time with them, and had celebrated my son's 14th birthday.
Yeah,
and I know you've kind of been out and about as well, and enjoying some of this fine weather that we've been experiencing.
Yeah, and teaching my son how to drive go-karting and stuff. He's
really?
enjoying that. You got to get started early to make sure they're a great driver when they turn 16. So he's got some
That's
time.
awesome.
So
yeah. And I don't know if you've noticed, but while I was out and about with my family, I added a new member to my shelf there. Do you see that?
No, I don't.
There.
All right.
It's a wooden turtle or tortoise that I found at a really amazing store, and I don't have any affiliation with them, and I'm not getting paid to say this, but Primitive Design in Port Hope, Ontario.
Yeah.
Really have some cool, funky things. So if you're looking for something unique or different,
Yeah.
I'd encourage people to head out there. But right now, we're also talking about how people are dealing with some financial stresses, and they might not be able to spend a whole lot of money on things like I just spent a little bit of money on. So we're going to talk about the financial stresses that Canadians have been dealing with, and timing of it is quite appropriate, I guess, because today the Bank of Canada announced another quarter point increase. and that's just going to add to the financial stresses for a lot of Canadians.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to be working off of two surveys that were done earlier this year, and they're done every single year. The first one is the FP Canada's 2023 Financial Stress Index, and then we'll get into the Fidelity's survey.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start off with maybe reading some of the stats, and then Ryan, you and I can kind of step in and provide some of our feedback and input on some of these numbers.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add to that before I get going?
No, again, when we look at self-care, the wheel of self-care that is put out there, they look at psychology, physical, emotional, spiritual, personal, and even professional self-care. But I think the biggest pie that is often left out of most of them is the financial piece, which helps in all of these stresses. So again, that's why we want to bring it kind of to the forefront as include this as part of your self-care wheel of something that you look at every year and find balance in. Obviously it brings freedom to people with the ability to do things and save for their goals and things that are coming up. And again, we encourage people to ask questions, give us a call, to kind of walk through some of the ideas. And we're here to help and answer people's questions. So,
for sure. Well, I've definitely noticed, before I kind of get into the nitty gritty here of the data, just in my client base in the last year, I've noticed a lot of clients calling, emailing, looking for some assistance. I just had one early this morning. People just don't know what to do right now. They are stressed. Many who have variable rate mortgages, and every single time there's been an interest rate increase, their payment has been adjusted. I've talked to clients who are now paying $1,000 to $1,500 more per month, which they hadn't budgeted for. So, it's a very real problem right now. And there is some good news for sure, and we're going to get to the good news, but let's dig into some of the data. So I'm going to start off with FP Canada's 2023 Financial Stress Index. And this one here is based on a survey of about 2,000 Canadians. And what they had found is that money remains the top source of stress. So right now, 40% of those respondents have indicated that money and financial stress is their number one cause of stress right now, compared to personal health. So only about 23% of them have said, personal health is of main concern, and relationships at 17% and 16%. And that's 40% marker. That's now 6 years in a row that money is the main source of people's stress or people's stresses right now. Yeah. Does that surprise you at all?
I'm surprised the number isn't higher. And when we talk about personal health, relationships, and work, I wouldn't be surprised if that number bleeds. It really should be bleeding into all three of those that are the following one, right? Work stress, sometimes it's money related, that they're not getting paid enough for what they're worth. Relationships, the stress within a relationship could be somewhat money based. And I know we've been sending out a series lately about relationship and marriage recently, and we've talked about it in previous podcasts. And then personal health too. If you don't have the money to go see the right specialist, whether it's a massage therapist or somebody for your own personal need, then you're not getting it. So again, that's being the financial wheel, adding that piece of the pizza pie in there, I think really trickles into all the three of the stresses that happen with people on day to day. So 40% of respondents. I'm surprised that isn't higher. So
well, the next one here, which is I guess I don't know if it's been surprising based on what we've been dealing with, but rising inflation was the main pressing concern for people, with the increased cost of goods and services, particularly gas and groceries. And that's one that I know that I'm talking with friends and family in our gatherings recently. They are still dealing with The grocery costs as being a major factor. Fuel costs are down compared to last year around the same period of time, but we're still paying well
Yeah.
over $1.50, almost $1.60 of regular
Yeah.
gasoline. So that's, inflation has been a major issue. And if I look at the numbers here, it says almost half of the respondents, about 48%, had less disposable income compared to the previous year. So that's up from 39% in 2022. And I think part of that is, again, they are paying more for gas, they are paying more
Yeah.
for groceries, but also there's that interest cost that they're bearing now on their variable rate mortgages.
Yeah. Yeah, I think especially the grocery is the area that I find I'm talking with more clients about, and they're sharing with me some of their stories of how they're getting through it. Obviously,
Mm.
meal planning is a big one. Looking at making sure that they don't have waste of their food, and people are growing
Hmm.
gardens like myself, growing garden in the backyard
Yeah.
to help make sure. And again, that goes back to a mental health thing too. Being able
Right.
to get out in nature and the garden really helps people kind of de-stress with a lot of these things and really
Hmm.
think out some of the stuff that's on their mind.
Yeah.
And pulling weeds is a good de-stressor too.
Yeah.
So get out
You
of
can
their
do it at
weed.
my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, come over to my house. You can do the same thing here.
Yeah.
Well, here's another one that's a little bit concerning now. So savings was a challenge with retirement savings, 35%, and saving for major purchases, 32%, being areas of growing concern.
Yeah.
So about a third of people right now are struggling with putting money aside for the future because they're dealing with today and the
Yeah.
realities of today. And I'm just wondering what that impact is going to be, as people get closer to retirement, right? Because right now they're not thinking about setting money aside for, their retirement. They're worried about putting food on the table today,
Yeah.
putting gas in their vehicles, right, and
Yeah.
making those mortgage payments.
Absolutely.
And the reason why we're going through some of this with people is if you think you're alone, you're
Yeah.
not alone.
Yeah.
This is, again, many Canadians are going through this. This is not a unique situation. So if you feel that you're the only one or you're alone in this, you're not. There are a lot of people going through some of these challenges.
Yeah.
The next one is also concerning because it says more than one third, so about 36% of the respondents experience mental health challenges related to financial stress.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
scary.
it is scary, and again, I think that number is lower than it is because of people
Mm-hmm.
just not wanting to say whether it's actually affecting them. Uh, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I don't feel like I'm stressed, but I feel stressed through my shoulders, and my shoulders
Yeah.
get really tight in my neck, right? So that's my
Yep.
body's way of saying you're stressed.
Yeah.
And again, the reason why we talk about this and we will continue to talk about it is is that's the biggest thing, is being able to talk about the things that are on your mind and their stress, and being able to go to the right people for the right advice along the
Yeah.
way. And it's not going to solve every problem, but it's definitely going to allow you to take a breath of fresh air, to
Yeah.
create a plan and have somebody there help you kind of create a plan. We
Yeah.
have a lot of great tools in place, and I would say, the result of us walking through plan with clients is really seeing like a goal and how the steps. And I find that often what happens is that people don't get to see like a plan for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
When they seek other advice or institutions, they're not getting something tangible that they can look at and see progression, and
Right.
also then reach out to somebody and say, where am I and how are we doing and what can I do differently? And
Right.
asking some of the important questions that we often put off because we
Mm-hmm.
find we're too busy. And
Right.
and you know talking with clients yesterday, being able to take 20 or 30 minutes of their time to help move them and move the needle closer to their goal. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a challenge that we're seeing more and more with people, and I think that number is lower than we really think it
Yeah.
is. So
But I think here's a bit of a shift right now, Ryan. Is you mentioned Planworth, and that's the program we use for retirement planning and goal based planning.
Yeah.
And, that's really to kind of set out in the future. Here's the target. Here are the goals. How do we get to that point? But right now, a lot of people are saying, I have to put food on the table. Like, I need to find money to
Yeah.
be able to pay for my expenses today. So that's why you and I are currently exploring another option
Yeah.
where we're hoping to potentially offer it to our clients in the near future, where it specifically works on spending behavior, money behavior, really kind of digs deep into the budgeting or cash flow side of things.
Yeah.
And it's a tool that will be available to our clients.
Mhm.
It's there will be some educational components as well.
Yeah.
So those are things that we're going to be looking at to kind of deal with the today. So then we can not only change the behavior,
Yeah.
potentially find some of the additional resources, financial resources, so people can, have less stress,
Yeah.
find a way to pay their bills, and also, achieve that goal of setting money aside for the future. Because here's the next thing, that we're finding here with the respondents. It's not just a mental health component
Yeah.
where, again, that's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
You're dealing with mental health. You want to get help for it. It costs money, but you can't pay for it because you already can't pay for the food and the gas and your rent or mortgage payments.
Yeah.
It's a vicious cycle. So
Yeah.
now what's also happening with people is financial stress, as according to the survey, also took a toll on sleep.
Yeah.
With almost half of the respondents, like 48% of respondents are reporting that their sleep has been disturbed or disrupted due to
Mhm.
money worries, where compared to last year, that was about 43% of respondents were saying that sleep has been impacted by a lot of the stress.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I've said it before, which is, a plan, being able to set a goal without a plan is simply a wish. And when it comes to a lot of things, it's about creating those habits, right? And creating those
Mhm.
behaviors. And between this tool that you mentioned and working with the right advisor that's a good and great fit for you,
Mhm.
they can help guide you and help you create those habits. And I would say a lot of it is self reflection, right?
Mhm.
Looking at your own habits. And if you, especially in this time with increasing costs and stuff, what kind of sacrifices do you want to take, to trade off a little bit of time of spending 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, perhaps talking to a professional versus
Mhm.
15 or 20 minutes scrolling through Instagram, perhaps.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it too. So,
Yeah.
but what small step of 15 minutes? And I remember years ago somebody saying that just breaking things up into 15 minutes, how in the next 15 minutes can you work towards a goal or do your own personal growth,
Mhm.
and how that will support yourself in getting through the right amount of sleep,
Right.
the stresses that are going on in your life. So, and
Yeah.
then these are things that are being shared with clients of mine that are coming from their own professions too, and experts that are giving me the feedback that I can be able to share with others too. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. But I think, if they're able to work through a process, learn about money,
yeah,
learn about money behavior,
yeah,
and recognize that, hey, if they make some adjustments, that perhaps there is a little, that tightness around their neck, that noose around their neck, the financial noose around their neck,
yeah,
will get loosened up a little bit.
yeah,
And I think that's really what people need, because there are a lot of tools out there,
yeah,
but a lot of the tools are offered through financial advisors, financial
yeah,
professionals.
yeah,
There really isn't a lot in terms of where people can just kind of self help when it comes to finances.
yeah,
Or the danger is they'll go on social media
hmm,
and they will found a lot of false information about, you know, spending money, budgeting, cash flow, investing, and it just there are a lot of people that know that there are people who are desperate right now and they're taking advantage of that.
yeah,
And I think people just need to pause, and really research, is this the right answer for me? Is this the right solution for me? As opposed to just jumping in because of the desperation that people are feeling right now,
Yeah.
right? But there is good news, right? So the good news here with the people that were surveyed is that for the respondents who worked with a financial planner, said that they felt hopeful about their financial future. So 59%
Yeah.
of the respondents who worked with a financial planner, so they actually feel very hopeful. So to your point, work with a professional because it's going to give you a different outcome. And that 59% is compared to those who didn't work with a planner. So the ones who are not working with a financial professional,
Yeah.
only 46% of them feel hopeful about their financial future,
Yeah.
right? And the other thing too is, I don't know if you want to add to that before I move on to the next point.
No, not at this point. No.
You're good? Okay.
Yeah.
So now the respondents who worked with financial professionals were less prone to money-related stress, sleep loss, and financial regrets. Isn't that amazing? If you actually
So,
work with a professional, all of a sudden you are more comfortable. You're not really losing as much sleep as everybody else,
yeah.
right?
So, my question is, find the right, or why aren't you working with a professional?
That's the question.
Yeah. And
That's the question.
what are your beliefs in them? What experiences have you had in the past with financial planners, advisors, coaches? And they're all great questions that people should be asking. There's lots of great and terrible commercials out there that are trying to lure people out of certain things, and I know we've talked about it before.
You're going to get me going now.
Yeah, and if you want sound advice, you're not just going to Instagram. You're not going based on a commercial. You're doing a little bit more research, and honestly, you're asking friends and family about what they enjoy about their advisor and what they can work on. And I think for the right advisor, it doesn't cost anything but your time to sit down and have a conversation with them and get some true sound advice and better direction. And that's a little bit of my rant. I know I need to be wanted to be a little bit more excited, but I need to take a breath about it. So, but yeah, obviously I'll leave the floor for you to speak a little bit about your experiences too.
I'm going to get into that, but I'm going to read the next point here, which kind of will add a little bit fuel to the fire. So respondents who worked with financial professionals were less prone to money-related stress, sleep loss, and financial regrets. I said that part already. But even when money was a primary source of stress, over half, 55% of respondents who worked with financial planners said financial stress had no impact on their lives, compared to 42% who didn't work with planners. And this is where I get frustrated when you hear some of these commercials and are encouraging people to invest with certain firms and eliminate the financial advisor because with the savings and fees over the years you're going to earn X amount more just in the cost savings of the fees. And what they don't talk about is they don't talk about the difference between what we refer to as the investment return and the investor return. I'm sure, Ryan, you've heard that before as well.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't understand the difference, let's select an investment, any investment. It could be a stock index, whatever, and you hold it for a 10-year period. That's what the investment return is. So let's say it averaged 7% per year over 10 years, and we're dealing with the volatility throughout that period of time. The investor return is, in many cases, specifically for the ones who are not working with a professional or financial professional, is a lot less than that. That's the investor return. And then the question is, well, why is there a difference? How is there a difference? It's behavior. When you don't have someone coaching you who is able to kind of walk you through historical data. And we know that history doesn't guarantee the future, and we understand all that. But when you invest your money in an investment vehicle without the expertise of a financial professional, and the markets are going, performing well,
Hmm.
it's easy to make money when the tide is rising, right? Even monkeys will make money in a market that's providing you with a double digit positive return.
Hmm.
Where people suffer, where they struggle, is when the opposite happens. When you deal with a significant decline in the market, that's when people behave incorrectly. They panic, they're scared, they have
Yeah.
no guidance, they have no direction, and that's when they pull out of the market because they're hearing what the media is saying. It feels like it's the end of the world in many cases, and it's a knee jerk reaction. So the bottom line is they will pull out of the market, they will sit in the sidelines, and
Hmm.
they'll wait for the markets to recover.
Yeah.
And usually what happens is, again, it's difficult to determine when we're at the bottom of a market. So they will wait. So then they'll see, okay, the market seems to be stable now, 2, 3 months. They've missed out, typically in that case, in the significant gains in the recoveries.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, Ryan, what is the simplest way of an investor to make money? The bottom line is you buy low, you sell high.
Yeah.
The behavior for these individuals is the opposite.
Absolutely.
They're going in when things are going high,
Yeah.
and they get out when things are going low. They're doing the opposite.
Yeah.
So, over time, if you're discounting the rate, dealing with a firm that doesn't offer any financial advice, and trust me, I've had clients with some of those firms who then have brought their money over because when they are calling them for advice, when there is market volatility, good luck
Yeah.
getting it.
Yeah.
There is no advice. You get what you pay for,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
when you're down 30% in a given year, doesn't matter what your fee is. If you pull out, you guaranteed that 30% loss,
Mhm.
and there is no savings. Where we've talked people through those situations where they have seen, what, now's not the right time to pull out.
Mhm.
This is a long term strategy. It isn't the end of the world. This is a temporary turbulence that we're dealing with. And many times we've encouraged people to put money in the markets during those periods of time, and they performed really well once the recoveries have taken place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
pay for the advice.
yeah.
It is worth it long term. The data supports it. Pay
Yeah.
for the advice.
And the strategy is often that those organizations, there's only one strategy and one strategy only. We've talked about sequence of returns in previous
Mm.
podcasts too. You know, you know, having your risk assessment just isn't simply, one mutual fund risk and that is it. And
Mm.
you know, uh, I'm a high risk mutual fund and I'm a low risk mutual fund. But when you look at the mutual fund itself, it's the same thing. If you
Yeah.
break it down and understanding there's different strategies, and you're simply not getting that, and also you're not getting, again, the support, as you said. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things. You're not getting the support of talking to somebody, walking
Mm.
somebody off that edge of
Mm.
making the wrong choice,
Yeah.
and that there's flexibility in everybody's strategy. But again, for us, slow and steady wins the race, right?
Yeah.
And making small incremental changes along the way will help your end goal.
Yeah.
And really, the as you said, it shows in the numbers over time. There's very few studies that I've ever seen where somebody not working with somebody that they connect with as a financial advisor,
Mm.
that can give them some sound advice, that has a great team around them, to
Mm.
kind of weed out all the hoopla. And again,
Yeah.
whether people have realized this or not, it's about viewership when it comes to both Instagram posts and the news outlets. It's about scare tactics.
Yeah.
And how do we get people as scared as possible? Because that's the only thing that will bring them back. And again, it's one of those reverse psychology behaviors that people, like you said, instead of buying low and selling high, they're buying high and selling low. And
well, here's another thing that's happening too in the behavior. Just as I think about it, and this has come up repeatedly over the last 12 months. Now that interest rates have gone up, they're thinking about the now. And a lot of clients are saying, why don't I just lock in my money for 5 years at 5% per year in a GIC?
Yeah.
That's so much better today than what we're getting in the markets. And I've been doing this for 34 years, and I've experienced this in the past many different times through different market cycles. I will guarantee you that 2 years down the road, when they're still locked into that GIC at 5%, and let's say the markets are all of a sudden back to, they're stable and they're performing, really, really well, because they will at some point. We just don't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I will guarantee you that those clients that locked in at 5% who are now missing out on those strong high single-digit returns, even double-digit returns, are now going to complain that they're only earning 5% on their money and it's locked in. And that's another behavior that we're currently dealing with as well today. They're just thinking about the today. They're not thinking about the consequences of that decision in the future.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing too is they're putting money into GICs at 5% non-registered investments. Well, the bottom line is, if you're at a 30% tax bracket, people don't see the actual tax bill on that 5% GIC because it's not coming from their GIC. It's coming from their regular expenses. It's coming from their bank account.
Yeah.
But at 30%, your 5% is now net 3.2, and that's still not keeping up with inflation. So you're not really earning any purchasing power in that 5% GIC. All you're really doing is giving yourself a bit of a comfy, cozy blanket because it's just like, hey, I don't have to deal with the ups and downs. But if you really break down the numbers, you're not further ahead in a long-term strategy.
And we talk a lot about lost opportunity for people too. And by locking the money in, an opportunity comes up to, whether it's you need to buy something. This is what's happened. Obviously, we talked about it. Your AC goes or something with your roof. Your money's locked in. You can't access that money. So it's, again, another reason working with a financial advisor, coach, planner is seeing things that potentially could happen instead of just thinking in the moment. And often people work with institutions that are just thinking about right now. How do they get paid right now and make sure they lock you in or because, institutions are making a lot of money on paying you 5% while they're making a lot more than that, right? So,
they're paying you 5.
Yeah.
They're taking that money. So, let's use a very basic example here. You go to the bank with your $100,000 and you lock it into a GIC at 5% for 5 years. The bank knows they have your money for 5 years.
Yeah.
So they're going to pay you 5. But where do you think they're getting that 5% from? It's not coming from their pockets. They're now taking that $100,000 and they're lending it out on a mortgage, for example. 5-year mortgages right now, I believe, are like 6.7%.
Yeah.
So they're collecting 6.7% from the neighbor. And out of that 6.7%, they're paying you your 5 because the neighbor locked in for 5 years on their mortgage as well. Yeah. So they know they've got you locked in for 5 and they've got the 6.7% coming in for 5 years. Wonderful. They take the spread between the two. They give you your 5 and they've made almost 200% on their money.
Yeah.
Is it 200%? No. I'm off with my percentages, but they've made a lot of money, off of somebody else's money.
Yeah.
And that's the part that people don't see. They're thinking, this is a wonderful, strategy. Yeah, for the bank.
Yeah.
Right. So if you want to put your money into GICs, and we're not saying you should necessarily, just be aware of the impact of some of these decisions.
Yeah.
And people are not aware, and that's why sitting down with us, we will show them. And if at the end of the day you still want to move forward, if it still makes sense with the GIC, that's fine. But just be aware.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, what you and I would encourage them to do is don't go into a non-cashable GIC. Take a
Yep.
slightly lower rate of return, get into a cashable.
Yeah.
Because what if things do change, and they will change?
Yeah.
At least you can get yourself out of that contract and start to invest in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get a little heated with these things sometimes.
That's good. But we're here to inform, right? And
Yeah.
that way people think through other ways of doing things besides what's been really ingrained in our brains through marketing and pushy.
Brainwashed.
Yeah. So
Right?
yeah.
All right. So let's move on to the Fidelity report now. And even going back to some of this other data, like this is consistent year over year.
Yeah.
It's consistently when we hear this data, I mean, it might vary a few percentage points up or down, but the end result is people who work with a financial professional typically outperform the people who don't.
Yeah.
That's just the bottom line. So let's talk about Fidelity report now. So the Fidelity Investments Canada report further underscored the value of financial planning and professional advice in navigating retirement challenges. Now we're going to talk about retirement. So the Fidelity Retirement Report for 2023 found that respondents were feeling less optimistic about retirement, with 73% of them saying they felt positive about their outlook in retirement, down from 80% in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So we still have almost 73%, almost 75% saying that they're less optimistic. Let me just see here. Only 73% of them said that they felt positive. Right, so that's down from 80%. So that's fairly significant.
Yeah.
The rising cost of living was the primary obstacle holding respondents back from retiring.
Yeah.
So as a result, 42% of respondents reported saving less compared to the previous year. So can you imagine? Inflation now is basically holding people back from retiring.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
we need to find a way to keep up with inflation and outpace inflation when we look at building our portfolios.
Yeah.
And you're not doing that in a locked-in GIC at 5%. Anything to add to that?
Again, going back to what we've talked about, sequence of returns, understanding
Yeah.
your strategy can't just be one source of income, but different areas, different sources of income through the highs and the lows of the market,
Yeah.
especially for those that are retired that, are a little bit more budget aware of what's going on and what their spending is in retirement.
Yeah.
Obviously, talk to clients that are putting off travel more recently, more spending time at home and with close friends, than going and doing the things that they hope to have done in retirement as they had planned. But again, with the clients that we've worked with that worked with us and had that strategy of different, I feel like they're feeling less of this conversation, this impact of the way the market's going. And again, as the beginning of the article says, we have kind of proof of how we work with clients that have shown a little bit of ease with talking with us. We're very fun guys to talk with. Let's admit it. So
Yeah, we're mostly not all riled up when it comes. We're fairly
Yeah.
easygoing for the most part.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and we listen to what the underlying meanings of what's going on, and you don't get that from talking to a AI programmer or whatever they've instituted at these institutions. So.
Well, let's talk about, here's an example with some clients that we've worked with recently who have had some financial challenges. We set them up with permanent insurance policies that were building up cash reserves over the years. And a few of them over the last 12 months would come to me and say, hey, Jim, dealing with some financial challenges, maybe I need to draw down on my RSP, or maybe draw down on my TFSA. Many of them were invested in portfolios, and they were ready to cash out at the
Yeah.
wrong time. So either deal with the tax hit from the RSP or just cash out of the market. And I would step and say, well, what's the amount that you need? And they would tell me the amount and said, well, why don't we, borrow against your insurance policy? They didn't remember that that was an option.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons why we did what we did. And when you're investing in a dividend paying whole life insurance policy, the cash, the dividend that you earn every single year has no bearing on how the market's performing. You earn the dividend, it's yours. It can't take it back. There's no market fluctuation. So many of them have actually saved their portfolios by accessing funds in their whole life insurance policies.
Yeah.
Another way of looking at it is they become their own bank because they're borrowing it from themselves, but there is no credit application. It's you go to the insurance company, say, I need to borrow X amount against my cash value of my insurance policy. Great.
Yeah.
It's a form. Money's in
Yeah.
your account within 5-10 business days.
Yeah.
Right. So again, the benefit of working with financial advisors. I have clients who maybe have purchased a whole life policy from another advisor 20, 25 years ago. And they're coming to me again saying the same thing, cashing out securities or whatever they're looking to cash out. And I'll remind them, hey, you have that insurance policy with the other advisor. You can eliminate these losses, or at least you can ride the volatility by accessing the cash against that policy.
Yeah.
Or here's another wonderful one. Real estate values went down last year. And I have clients who wanted to access capital to take advantage of that because they wanted to buy real estate last year.
Yeah.
All right. Borrow money against your whole life cash value policy. There's your down payment. Use that to buy yourself a rental property or a cottage or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
these are strategies that you're just not going to hear about working with a specific investment company who doesn't offer those solutions. They're just going to talk to you about that piece, that part of the portfolio, without looking at your overall plan from a holistic point of view, and to say, here's how we can look at accessing capital. You don't have to liquidate your holdings, and that goes to the sequence of return, risk, and retirement. When markets are down in the portfolio, we say to people, okay, well then access the cash in your whole life insurance policy, so that way you don't have to trigger those losses.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what people are missing out on. All right. There was another survey. Sorry, go ahead.
They're doing it for their kids too. That's the other thing that's happening. The
Yeah.
older generation that has the means, they're helping support their younger generation through these insurance strategies, right?
Yeah.
And that way they're building up. So, when you're young, that's the best time to look into insurance because it's so much cheaper, and
Yeah.
maintain it and allow that cash to build up
Yeah.
for the opportunity to do these things. So,
Yeah. And it's providing some capital for those kids when they're of age to access the capital. It could be for education purposes. It could be for retirement purposes. It could be for the purchase of their first home.
Yeah.
Right. It's there, and the parents don't have to deregister or access their own retirement capital to help the kids out because they've already started that plan years ago.
Yeah.
So these are things that again you just won't hear about in working with some of the investment firms that are promising a lower rate or lower management fee.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about another survey from the Healthcare of Ontario Pension Plan. So 44% of the respondents said that they haven't set any money aside for retirement in the past year. That's an increase of 6% year over year. So again, similar trend, right? We've got to put food on the table today. We have to put gas in the vehicle so we can go to work.
Yeah.
So we can't worry about the future. We'll figure that out down the road. They're basically kicking the ball down the road is what they're doing.
Yeah.
So that's scary. Now, the Fidelity report found that Canadians who had a written financial plan significantly more prepared both financially. So 91% of people were felt more prepared, and emotionally 85% for retirement compared to those without a plan. So 58% and 69% respectively.
That's
So those with written plans, so the ones who've had a written plan, 82% worked with a financial advisor to build a plan. So to your question, why aren't more people doing this?
Yeah.
Right? And only 28% of the respondents had a written plan.
Yeah.
So there's still 2/3 of people out there that don't have a plan in place, to kind of work on their current financial situation. So let's again talk about the cash flow piece.
Yeah.
They don't know what that looks like. People just see money coming in and money going out and don't really understand what they're spending their money on.
Yeah.
They don't understand the taxes that they're paying on the money coming in, and how making some adjustments could also help them with that, as opposed to deferring a tax problem, saving actual real dollars in
Yeah.
taxes.
Yeah.
So, Ryan, what do you think people should do?
Uh,
It's simple.
so simple. Have a plan, have a written plan. If you don't have an advisor, if for yourself, if you don't have something written down, it's really, as I said, a goal without a plan is simply a wish. And by sitting down with advisor and those that are working with advisor, going back to them and saying, "Show me my plan. Where's my
Mm-hmm.
plan? I want some tangible that I can see and look at." That shows me, and again, the plan changes constantly, because
Yeah.
whether it's, you buy a house, you buy a secondary, you have to buy a car, you go to school, you have a child, you get married, you get a raise. Like, there's all these factors. You get an inheritance. All the plan is constantly changing. So
Yeah.
we're at minimum checking in with clients for us once a year, but clients have the access to us. And when these changes happen, what are they doing? They're booking appointments. Okay, a change has happened. And I
Yeah.
jokingly say this with people, but it's serious. Like, something big happens in your life. I want to be in the top 5. Who are the
Yeah.
top 5 people that you call when something significant happens, right?
Yeah.
And how that can affect your written plan, and how we can
Yeah.
make adjustments and create new
Yeah.
strategies, and that it is forever evolving. It's not just set it and forget it. And
No.
hopefully that way of thinking is the way of the dodo bird.
Yeah.
But working with a professional is the key. And again, when it comes down to the numbers of people that feel less stress, they feel that they're more prepared for both their goals and retirement. And again, go to the people, friends and family that work with a great financial advisor. You know,
Mm-hmm.
our business is people preferring more business to us because they enjoy working with us.
Mm-hmm. Well, they
Ask what
enjoy it,
they
but they
like.
see value. They see value as well,
Yeah,
right? There has to be. I mean, there's one thing to just say, "Hey, you're good guys, and we like working with
yeah,
you," but they also have to see the value behind the advice that we're providing them, because there is a cost to it.
yeah,
And the cost is, again, what you pay in terms of the management fee with the investment firms that we may recommend. So there is a cost to
yeah,
that, and there has to be value. And I just want
yeah,
to clarify, too, when we say written plan, it doesn't mean necessarily written on paper,
yeah,
right? Now in the electronic world, we do provide them with a plan, but it is web-based. So it's something that they can refer to. They can log in at any time,
yeah,
and they can track their progress and to see if they're on track. And then, to the other point that you made about all the changes that could happen and how we should be the top 5 call, the other changes that also do happen are tax changes.
hmm,
There are performance on your investments. How are they performing? So if you need to achieve a certain target return
yeah,
and you're not achieving that, we have to make some adjustments.
yeah,
Again, an investor in a $100,000 GIC and a non-registered GIC earning 5%, paying tax on $5,000 per year, which they will have that 5% reinvested. So
hmm,
now they're compounding their tax problem. They're increasing their tax problem. These are the things that we have to sit down and reevaluate with clients, which we do,
yeah,
because some of these decisions, how many times have you and I sat down with a client who have named the wrong beneficiary on their registered account? They'll name their kids and not their
yeah,
spouse.
yeah,
And then we talk to them about why that's a problem, but they have no clue. And a lot of those clients, I hate to say it, but a lot of those clients were working with an investment firm, and it's not just one, there's many, I'm using those as an example, but an investment firm that offered the low-cost solution. But again, they didn't receive advice, and they didn't realize that there was going to be a major problem if they passed away with how they structured their beneficiaries.
Yeah.
So these are the things that we assist the clients with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the bottom line, Ryan, it just really is sit down with a financial professional, write a plan, put a plan in place.
Yeah.
And I think one of the barriers for people might be cost. They might be concerned about, well, it just costs too much. Or another barrier might be, I'm a small account, like I don't have enough money to even justify a plan. We will work with you in terms of the cost model. We will work with you in terms of, regardless of size of the investment account. We work with a lot of clients, young clients that are just starting out.
Yeah.
And they're starting out with a small monthly contribution, and that's okay. So I'd be more than happy to, for anyone who reaches out to us and they'd like to find out a little bit more, we can discuss how we're compensated, what the compensation fee might be. One thing I would ask for people, so I'm going to put a poll. So if you're a Spotify listener, there is a poll that I'm going to include in the podcast version of it. But if you'd like a copy of the poll, just please reach out to us. And the question I'm going to ask is, would you be interested in actually going through a cash flow plan? Not a retirement plan, not an insurance plan, but a cash flow plan to see if we can uncover some additional funds to help you kind of get through the current situation. So if you're someone who would be interested in that, let us know. Please just indicate in the poll your answer, and we'd be more than happy to help walk you through that. And again, there's an educational component to it as well. So it's not just numbers and cents. Yeah. Right. It's an actual an educational component that would be available with a tool that would help you to track and manage your finances.
Yeah.
Right. Any other thoughts?
Get out there and help yourself, and ask for help, and do the research, and make sure that you're finding the right support for you and your family and your business, because there's a lot of information out there, and we help people sort through all the distractions. And again, having been somebody that's on Instagram, Facebook, a lot of American stuff, a lot of stuff that is not relevant to us as Canadians, but and vice versa. So,
Right. Awesome. Well, I think our time is up.
Yeah.
So once again, I will remind people, if you'd like the free resources that we have available, look for the TVH Financial app in your mobile phone. It's available for Apple users and Android users. You can also search our website. There's some resources there as well available to you for free, www.tvhfinancial.ca, or you can simply just reach out to us, financial@tvhgroup.ca, or we can be reached by good old-fashioned telephone at 647-727-4668. Ryan, enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
And we'll be reaching out to people again with another episode, hopefully in the next week or so. Right. Everyone, thanks, and take care.
Why is it me? Why am I?